This time, Yerushalmi Eruvin, the article Ozva edition where Mamish Tab Lama Bob Ral Boy Rabbi Yosha, and in the film that is on Daf Lama Gimel Amid Bays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 lines down. Boy Rabbi Yosha. Rabbi Yosha asked the question. You have the airspace of a chutzner. Is that considered to be something which we'd add on to the make an Eber to a city or not? So the Shmini Me'ada, right? Let's learn from here. You have a house which is open on one side. It was broken open, obviously, busted open. It's considered. It's measured to see. It can make an Eber for the city. If it's busted on two sides, it's not named that with anymore. Rabbi Ahmed Shembi said, "Shenila Koroso." That's when its Korah is removed. Here, Korah means a tikra. It doesn't have a roof, and it's busted on two sides. Doesn't have a roof. That's not a house anymore. But if it's the roof is not removed, then even if it's busted open on two sides, you can still count it as an ibor. So says Gemara, if it's talking about where it's the roof is removed, so by that's saying like right? There's no roof. So therefore, if you can count a house which is mukaf on four sides, even on three sides, as an ibor, so why not avir chotzer, which is mukaf on 3 or 4 sides, also be counted as ibor for a city? He says, well, no. Tamanukaf labayis. There originally, when it was made, it was made for the purpose of a house. So the ruin of a house still retains the shame of mukaf ladira, can consider to be an ibor for the city. But here lo hukaf ladira. But here, originally, where the chotzer was mukaf, it was surrounded with walls. It wasn't surrounded with walls for the purpose of a dira. So therefore, it can't be counted as being an ibor for the city. Okay, so that goes on to tell us about measuring, based on the fact we said that you get extra space in the corners. Don't measure in the middle of a corner. Nice. Now, I have to tell you, it was up to me, I would change the gears to the Gemara. I would change it very simply. Reverse the gears. Don't measure in the corners. Measure from the middle. That's, I think, even though we learn that way, that's what it means. Because don't measure from over here, which is according to argues called the Emtsoi for some reason, because then you get 2,000 amos over here, but you're going to get 1,428 amos only over there. I'm going to trust your article's judgment on that. Rather measure mina chronos, which again I think there's better gears as mina Emtsoi, right, the middle over here, because then you get 2,000 amos over here, and then you get 2,800 amos in the corners. So that's a better way to measure. So again, probably somebody changes the gear. So I don't see here. As soon as it's close, changing it. Nor the carbon Ada, nor the Pnei Moshe. But I think it's a double portion that the gears is better that way. Okay. Like I said, even don't change the gears, so that's what it means. Don't measure from the middle of the corner, measure from the sides. Okay. Again, I prefer to change the gears, so I have to get that in this last word. Halacha base. Masnisin. Nosi karpa flier, divrei meir. You can give a karpa to a city. You don't start from the wall. You start from 72/3 amos away from the wall. That's your measure 2,000 amos away. From there. Come say you don't give a karpa only between two cities. In other words, it has to be, you can't give a karpa lavir, so to speak. It has to be that you give a karpa to between two structures, between two cities, as it says here. So then each one gets a karpa to make them as one. So then each city will get 72/3 amos, and then they you can go measure tchum from beyond the wall of the second city, not from beyond the wall of your city. So they have 3 villages which are in a tripod situation. In between the 2 outer ones, they're then they're 141 and a third amos to the 2 karpevos. So then the third, those two make the third one into a unit with them, and of course, going to explain exactly what that means. What is the third one adding to this picture? Okay, says the Gemara. Nosin karpaf la'ir. That's the header in the article. The film just begins right in. Rav Huna b'shem. It says in the Olam Farshim add the word Rav here. Rav Huna b'shem Rav. Remeir Rabbanan Mikra Echad Darshim. Remeir and Rabbanan Darsh the same pasuk. Meir Darsh Mikir Ha'ir. Says from the wall of the city. Mata Amulomar v'chutzah. Now this pasuk is talking about the Migrashei HaLeviim, the Migrashei Harim, sorry, the Migrashim of the Orei HaLeviim, which you give to the cities of the Levim outside their cities. Migrashei Harim, Asher Nu Levim, Kir Ir V'chutza Elef Amos Levim. There's 1,000 Amma, which is one pasuk, 2,000 Amos. The other pasuk, so they're we say 1,000 amos is for one purpose, the other 1,000 amos for another purpose. But in any event, it's 2,000 amos you measure, and it says Mikir Ir V'chutza. So Mikir Matam Lomro. So Meir says Dosh Mikir Matam Lomro. Why does he add the word Bechutza? So it teaches you Matam Mikanshas a karpaf here. Every stick gets a karpaf. That's the chutza. So obviously a smachta because the whole case Trum Shabbos this is in a smachta, but okay, it's in a smachta based on puzzle. Remember Doshim Bechutza. It says Bechutza. Matam Mikira Ir. Why does it say Mekir? But it says Chutza, just it's superfluous, right? Chutza already means outside city. So it comes down to El Mikan, there's a change of gears right here. It's from the Rashba. I don't remember who quotes the Rashba. Somebody quotes it. El Mikan she'ein nostin karpaf la'ir. Right? So the from here we see that you don't give a karpaf. So this Girsa Rashba, look it up. Reb Chaim has this Girsa, and the Enlightened Manuscript has this Girsa as well. The Girsa of El Mikan She'en Nosnim Karpaf L'Yir. So again, it's really like Shneik Machishim Zed Zeh without Kosar Shlishi. Because sometimes you do give a karpaf. So when there's additional structure, like in the city nearby, we give a karpaf. When there is no additional, we could do chutzah. When there is no additional structure nearby, no city nearby, we start Mikira here. But then there's a difficulty because the Mishnah goes on and says, after Lomu B'Karpel Ben Shteirot, it says, Yesh Zeshim Mama Ushraim Zeshim Mama Ushraim Osa Karpel L'Shteim Yos Kechas. So it happens to be that in the Bible it's explicit, in the Yerushalmi there seems to be implicit here that Rabban argue on this. That it's only, even between two cities, only give one karpaf, not two karpefos. So if that's the case, how can the Mishnah continue to say that if there are two cities, you give two karpefos? So that's implicit in Yerushalmi's next line is that question. Hadamara shenosi karpaf le'ir. You only give one karpaf to the city, not two karpefos. So Reb Chaim was the question. That he learns that's an implicit question. So you only give one karpaf to the city, not two karpefos. So Rabbi Yaakov Barach, Rabbi Yerusham Nachum B'Shem Shmuel Barabba said Salkus Masnitin. You're right. The Mishnah ended after Lomu B'Karba Bein Shtei. The next there Salkus Masnitin. The Mishnah ended. The next line Yesh Zu Shima V'Shraim Zu Shima V'Shraim Asa Karba L'Shtei Milos Kachas. That's going back to the Meir. That's how Rabbanan Shita. So that's the Salkus is. The Mishnah ended. The first Mishnah ended there. Then the Mishnah went back to the Divrei Meir and said, "According to Meir, you give two karpefos, not according to Rabbanan. According to Rabbanan, even between two cities, one karpef, not two karpefos." Okay, then we go on to the next part of the Mishnah. Chen shlosha kfarim hamshulashim. So you have three kfarim which are mishulash, which are in a tripod. So Shmuel Amar, not a tripod. And he says, "Asim mishura." We have a picture in the Reb Chaim. Actually, there is no picture in Reb Chaim. The picture is in the art scroll. Reb Chaim was the picture next situation. So it's like this. Asim mishura is like this. They're in a row. Now, between if you took all three out of two cities, there'd be 141 some amos, and that would not work according to Rabbanan, because according to Rabbanan we say you only give one karpaf. But now there's a city in the middle, and there's less than 72 amos between the outer cities and the inner cities, so therefore it works. right? So because you have an individual kappa between each one. So therefore, this is even going to work according to Rabbana. Bar Kapara Amar Basim Tseva. Bar Kapara says no, they're made like a tseva, like a tripod. That's this scenario over here. Okay. Now here you have between this city over here and this city over here. Well, let's start between these two cities. Between this city and this city, if this city was down here and this city was down there, there'd be less than 141 and a third almas between those two cities. Okay, it's up here, but it can't be more than 2,000 almas away. Okay, then uh, the the imagery the Chaim and the article. Chaim has less than 2,000 amos on this in that angle over there. Less than 2,000 amos, and the article puts in similar picture, but the 2,000 amos are over here, across that way, not on diagonal. Okay. So in any event, so so according to this, this is only going to go to work on right mayor because there's more than 141 and a third amos between the villages. There's 141 amos, two karpevas between the villages, not just. I want to ask hidden and tzai. Now you could learn this two different ways. You could learn tzai about the way the simple pshat thing. What it seems to be tzai about um, the case of a swing kachatsuva. So the case we just saw. It's about to ask what, in this case, which is the middle one. Because if it's in the shura, I understand what the middle one is. But in this case, which is the middle one? But Chaim learns differently. That's why it's this picture over here, which will come to in a second. But first, let's reread a line or two. So what's the middle one? If they're in a row, so this is the middle one. Okay, but they make it sova. What's emtsoi? Now this one, it's a little bit difficult to question, right? Because, okay, granted, it's not a line, right? It's not a line, but isn't it obvious the middle one? So I meant to say it's talking about this picture over here. In other words, if you have the picture memvav, what's the middle one, right? Because here it's not as obvious. Here it's obvious which is the middle one. Which one the middle one, right? So that's why he has these two dots here. He says, if you, and the one's going to answer, that you can make any of them the middle one. Each one's the middle one to the other one, to the other two. Okay, so that's what's going to answer going to be. So again, it could learn this question. Again, the girl's answer as well. You can put it down this way. That makes the middle one. But it could be a Gemara's question like this. In this tripod, right, where it's not so obvious, it's kind of like the same picture. But I guess you're using all three cities over here. So this question is, which is the middle one when you look at it like this? And the answer is any of the middle one. Yeah. Okay, could be it's really the same picture, and the question is a question, and either way. But in any event, let's learn it's two separate questions. Is more of a tripod, which is less obvious, which is the middle one. So I'm going to ask, which one's the middle one? Again, nicha my sin kishur. How do I say? But my sin so behind I'm say. So mishmor achud Rabbi Brecha in temeshach mehin. Imagine from this one. I'm say. This was the middle one. Temeshach mehin. I'm say. Right. They go either any of them could be the middle one to the other two, and that's the way Chaim is learning the case. So if you're going to learn that the question is on this case, the question is it says if you measure from here, this will be the middle one. Measure this middle one, let's put it down and put it up in this case, and everything is fine. But this, in the way he's learning, this perhaps a little bit more Medulik Lashon. If you measure from between these two, this one's the middle one. Measure between these two, this one's the middle one. Each one goes the middle one to the other two. Okay, so the and Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yosef Shem say the middle one can't be more than 2,000 amas away from the others. Now here, again, according to Chaim, there has to be less than 2,000 amas on the angle between here and here in order for this to make him decide to make this tripod situation. Because the way the article has the picture, in 2000 measure an angle to measure directly. But it could be that it's not necessarily a contradiction. Depends how far the cities reach. These cities happen to be reach opposite each other. Prime cities don't. So it could be it's not a difference opinion. It's just a question of how the configuration works. Okay, so the Omar Yosa, the most important change to Rabbi Yossi, because she is to come Rabbi Yaakov Bracha. Today we learned. I have a question. Ask the fun question, Rabbi Yaakov Bracha. Okay, we understand. Even if they're between the two outer ones, 143 and 141 third. The middle one, can you unite them to make the two permitted? In other words, it's all considered one block. You can measure 2,000 times from the outer perimeters of each of each one on each side. But hayu shnayim. Now here shnayim means not two but five. There's two sets. Okay, you have two cities here and two cities here, and you have a middle one over here. We need it for both. You need to go up here and go down there, right? And so Maushi then the kind of can you say, well, the middle one can be the third one for this one and the third one for that one as well. Okay, can you say that? So matzrichala. When is it a question? So the when is he asking this question? Now the Gil Ephraim changed the Girsa here, and Reb Chaim goes with the Gil Ephraim's Girsa. Matzrichala kshayu. One of the article does. Probably not. He doesn't change the Girsa. But okay, we're going to go with the Ephraim's Girsa. Matzrichala kshayu echad mahalech. When one person wants to go and use all five. In other words, he wants to use all five as his and start his chum from the outer city. The middle one is not going to do any good. But the outer city in all directions, right? Each of the four corners. So that's the question. Avo but two people, one wants to use the bottom two cities, the southern two cities. One wants to use the northern two cities, and each one wants to be inside for the third one in the middle. That's fine. Neither can. It's the only question of tarti the sasre. You say it's contradictory for one person to use the middle of the city in the middle for both sides, or south, east, west, whatever the case may be. But if it's each two separate people, yes, of course, that's not a question. There's no time to decide. Right? They can use the middle one for their side, and the question is whether the person can use on the other side as well, or that's considered a time to decide. And of course, the Gemara does not resolve that question. You only measure the Shabbos use a rope of 50 amos. No pachas, no yeser. Not more and not less. Lo yomer el connected libo. You measure opposite your hearts. Each person of the two people is holding a rope holds an opposite heart. If you're measuring, a guy or a gader, if you reach a valley or a fence, and the Korban says, people walk over it, but it's now there's a slope. So what do you do with that? You absorb and you come back to its midah. It says inside the Vilna Mishnayos and the Bavli, Mishnah Bavli, is a Megillah Har. Because the city Mavlio, Osri Mavlia, because Midaso. And that should be here as well. And say, so you shouldn't go outside the Chum. So a couple of nice pictures in the Perush Chai. First of all, this is the opposite the heart. Opposite two hearts, and not one guy opposite his shoulder and the other guy opposite his knees. Otherwise, he's going to lose. This Mavlia. If you go from one side of a trench to another side of a trench, now the chiddush is even though if you went down the slope and up the slope, there was to add to your measure, and your 2,000 ounces would end much quicker. Since you're doing mavliya in one rope full, you're mavliya in one rope full, and you don't take into account the slope down or the slope up would be the same thing. If you had like a mound and that's the Goder. The Goder here is talking about a hill which collapsed, something like that. So again, the idea if you can be Mavliya in 50 Amos, Mavliya in 50 Amos, and that's fine. If you can't be Mavliya in 50 Amos, so then you go to a place which is nearby, where you can't actually cross. In other words, you stop measuring out this way, you go sideways to a place where you can go across, because it's much more narrow. You go across there, and Mavliya over there, but you can't go beyond the Tchum. That's what it says. In other words, let's say here he has 800 from the city. Then you go out this way, and you can measure another 1,000 over here, and then go back over here and measure your 200. But this can't go more than 2,000 amos away. That's the Korban A that says. This is of course a valley over here, but the same principle will be if it's a mountain. לא יצא חוץ לתחום מקום שראשי הגיא קצרים שיכול להביא משהו כדי שיחזור אחר כך מידס כנגד העיר. גזם נשרוס המודד בהולך שם, it's exactly שהרוס or somebody sees him מודד בהולך שם, יומר will say, שמיד הסכום של ציד העיר בעד שם, they're going to say, he's measuring way out here, must be the skum of the city goes way out here. So therefore this has got to be within the 2,000 amos of the city, not beyond the 2,000 amos on that side. Okay, so what if you get to a place where you can't be Mavliya? Imena Yochel Lavliya. And I think I think we have a great, he has a picture up here. Okay, you can't go beyond the 2,000 amos of the city. See, even though you can get up to 50 over here, since more than 2,000 amos away from the city, you can't do it. If you go, and over here, of course, it's more than 50, so I have a problem. But too bad, you can't go over here because more than 2,000 away from the city, and that's true about both sides. So what about if you can't be Mavliya because it's too far away or because it's too broad across? So, Imeni Yochel Avliyo, Rabbi Dustoy, Rabbi Yoni, Mishumay Meir, Shemati, Shemekajim Behorim. We're Mekader in the mountains, and Mekader, we're going to see, is the you go every 4 amos, like this. Take the slope and measure it straight across 4 amos, That's called Mekadron, drilling in the mountains. Okay, because it makes it, it gives you, it's not he says that, let's read the Korban. He says Mekadron, well, first he says, Zua Marabi Dustoi, Bezulimi Ute, goes the crow. You have to measure the slope accurately. You can't gain what you're going to gain over here because you're gaining half a measure of a person's height. So he says, only over here we say, also, and see as if we pierce the mountain, more than derech hanekev, and measure through that hole, to diminish the slope. Diminish the height, the measure of the slope. The bottom guy puts the rope opposite his heart. That's the bottom guy over here. And the top guy opposite his legs over there. So it makes it as if it's the side of a triangle. So you're not measuring the full hypotenuse of the triangle, which is the longest side. Only measuring one side of the triangle. So it's the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This slope, which would actually be c squared, you're only measuring as if it's b squared, right? So instead of measuring it as a c, you're measuring it as b. Okay, that's the way it's going to work. So the top guy opposite his legs. So you might be John show So you're gaining the B side, which is the half height of a human being, on every 4 amos. I don't know if the art school makes a cheshbon, gives us numbers. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's a nice picture of being Mavliya hill, which we didn't see before. You could put the 50 amma rope on top, over the top. No, I don't see that he gives numbers to it. Maybe when we get to the Gemara, it just gives us a picture of these three people standing in line. Okay, in any event, that brings us to the next Amud, so we'll stop here for today.